Have you ever felt like something was missing? Not in your life, but in the way reality is explained to you. Like a veil exists between what you see and what you know deep inside. If so, you're not alone. And this isn't a coincidence. For centuries, a sacred truth has been deliberately erased from your consciousness, a truth so powerful, so transformative, that entire systems were built to keep you from discovering it. Today, that veil begins to lift. What if I told you that what you call reality is not solid, not fixed, but mental, that there are laws far older than science, far deeper than religion, quietly shaping your existence, whether you know them or not? These are not beliefs. They are Hermetic principles, ancient teachings that reveal the true structure of the universe and your place within it, not as a victim, not as an observer, but as the creator. In this video, you're not just going to learn, you're going to remember. You'll begin to understand why your life feels disconnected, why your soul aches for meaning, why the noise inside your mind never stops. And more importantly, you'll see how it was designed to be this way, to keep you asleep, obedient, and unaware of your true power. But once you access the wisdom that was hidden in plain sight, nothing stays the same. This isn't about religion. It's not about dogma. It's about spirituality in its purest, most mystical form, the kind that reconnects you to the symbolic language of the soul, the synchronicities of the universe, and the ancient path of individuation, the kind that sets you free from the inside out. But this truth demands something in return: awareness, responsibility, and the courage to break your own chains. And before we begin, one quick thing. Thousands of people watch our videos but haven't subscribed yet. If this kind of content resonates with your inner knowing, if you feel this truth in your bones, take a second now and subscribe to Celestial Truths. Join us on this journey of awakening and stay until the end, and because what we're about to uncover might be the most important thing you've never been told. There's a kind of wisdom that doesn't shout. It whispers. It lives in symbols, in silence, in the folds of time. The seeker who begins this journey often feels an inexplicable pull, as if the universe itself is nudging them towards something ancient, something forgotten. Hermetic knowledge isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention like modern trends in spirituality. Instead, it reveals itself slowly to those ready to see beyond the veil. Hermes Trismegistus, the mythical sage said to be a fusion of Thoth and Mercury, didn't speak of gods and punishments. He spoke of mind, vibration, polarity, of the hidden architecture of the universe. Centuries before the rise of institutional religions, these teachings were already vibrating through the collective unconscious. You can almost hear them if you sit in deep stillness, not the kind that comes from silence, but the kind that comes from presence. The mystical laws encoded in the Emerald Tablets spoke not to crowds but to the soul. They bypassed dogma and went straight to essence. And that essence? It's still here, in dreams that haunt you, in synchronicities you can't explain, in moments of déjà vu when you feel you've lived a truth before ever hearing it. The wisdom is hiding in plain sight, not because it's weak, but because it's sacred. But here's the painful truth. That knowledge was buried, not by accident. It was erased, rewritten, and rebranded, all so that human beings would forget their divine potential. When you teach someone that salvation lies outside of them, you sever their link with the universe within. And that's exactly what happened. The original map to inner transformation, once etched in the minds of initiates, was locked away, kept in secret orders, hidden in symbols, diluted in rituals devoid of spirit. What once was a path to inner freedom became a tool for outer control. Still, the signs never fully disappeared. They echo through architecture, art, dreams, and even the hidden patterns of nature. Jung called this the archetypal language of the psyche, the way the self speaks when the ego finally gets quiet. Those drawn to spirituality often sense there's something deeper beyond crystals and affirmations. They may not know what Hermeticism is, but they feel its pulse. It's the same pulse that whispers, "You are more than you've been told." And that whisper, it grows louder when you're ready to listen. This isn't about nostalgia for an ancient past. It's a call to remember what was never truly lost. The Hermetic path isn't a religion. It's a return to inner authority, a reconnection with a mystical truth that predates temples and texts. It invites you to see reality not as something that happens to you, but as something that emerges from within you. And once you glimpse that, even for a moment, the rules of the game begin to shift. What if everything you were taught was upside down? And what if the key was never outside but buried inside your very being? As we continue, the deeper layers begin to unfold. There are laws that govern the outer world: gravity, thermodynamics, motion. But beyond those hidden from the eyes of the distracted, there are laws just as real, just as absolute, that govern the universe within. These are not theories or beliefs. They are principles, unbreakable, immutable. And whether you're aware of them or not, they shape every thought, emotion, and event in your life. The ancients called them the 7 Hermetic principles. Understand them, and life stops feeling like chaos. You begin to see the code beneath the surface, the divine architecture of spirituality in motion. The first is mentalism. All is mind. The universe, in its totality, is mental, a projection of consciousness. Your outer reality is nothing but a reflection of your inner world. Think of it like a lucid dream. When your thoughts are chaotic, so is your life. When your mind is clear, reality aligns. Then comes correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. Every pattern in the stars echoes in your bones. Every storm in your soul echoes in your relationships. Recognizing this opens the door to a mystical feedback loop between you and the cosmos. Vibration reminds us, nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. Emotions are frequencies. Thoughts are waves. When you're stuck, in despair, you're not broken. You're vibrating at a certain level. And just like tuning a radio, you can shift. Through awareness, through presence, through choosing a different response. Polarity teaches that everything is dual, light and dark, joy and sorrow, life and death. But here's the key. They're not enemies. They're the same energy on opposite ends. Alchemy begins when you stop fighting the dark and start transmuting it. Then comes rhythm, the dance of time, the pulse of existence. Everything flows in cycles: breath, seasons, love, loss, rebirth. When you understand rhythm, you stop resisting the ebb and flow. You learn to plant seeds in the stillness and reap them in motion. Cause and effect tells us nothing is random. Everything, every accident, every coincidence is part of a chain. You are not a victim. You are a participant in the great design of the universe. Your choices ripple outward. Lastly, gender, not of body, but of energy. Masculine and feminine forces reside in all things. To create anything, art, change, healing, you must harmonize these within: action and intuition, will and receptivity. Most people drift through life reacting, unaware they're swimming in these laws. But the Hermetic seeker begins to recognize the patterns. They journal their inner weather, meditate on their emotional rhythms, and study the synchronicities that appear like whispers from the mystical beyond. Life stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like initiation. When you align with these principles, you don't just understand life, you participate in its unfolding, consciously and powerfully. And yet, if this knowledge is so vital, why isn't it taught? Why don't more people know they are the architects of their own experience? That question opens the door to the next veil to be lifted, a truth many have sensed, but few dare encarar de frente. Imagine being born into a labyrinth and never told there was a way out. Instead, you're handed distractions, beliefs, and rules, none of which lead to freedom, only to deeper entanglement. That's what happened with Hermetic wisdom. It wasn't forgotten, it was hidden, on purpose. Those in power knew that once humanity remembered its true nature, the game would end. The systems built on fear, hierarchy, and control would collapse, because the moment someone realizes the universe begins within, they no longer bow to external authorities. They become sovereign. The suppression wasn't accidental. It was systematic, spanning empires, religions, and even modern movements disguised as spirituality. Texts were burned, symbols were demonized, teachings were fragmented and rebranded. Why? Because Hermetic knowledge teaches one thing above all: you are responsible for your own reality, and a person who embraces that cannot be manipulated. They don't respond to fear, They see through illusion. They're not swayed by guilt, shame, or salvation sold as a product. They are mystical, intuitive, inwardly anchored, and that is threatening to any institution built on dependency. You can still see the traces of this suppression today. Schools teach facts, but not meaning. Religions preach obedience, but not direct connection with the divine. Even many spiritual circles now echo the same diluted ideas, love and light, without shadow and depth. The Hermetic principles were turned into slogans or dismissed as outdated, but underneath it all, the ancient current still flows. And those who are called to it feel an inner restlessness, a subtle rebellion against surface-level truths. The universe begins to speak in patterns again. Dreams become louder, symbols more frequent, coincidences more charged. This isn't conspiracy, it's history. From the burning of the Library of Alexandria to the secret orders guarding sacred geometry, the effort to obscure Hermetic knowledge has been relentless. And yet, paradoxically, that effort proves its value. No one hides what is worthless. What is truly powerful is always veiled. And so the seeker must dig, the soul must remember. And often, this remembering begins in crisis, a break in the illusion that reveals the coded language of the universe. Suddenly the seeker realizes, I'm not crazy, I'm awakening. And as this awakening deepens, a question rises. What then is all this modern spirituality trying to replace? What are we being sold in the name of healing, light, and freedom? The next layer of truth reveals, a bitter irony, that even our paths to liberation are often cleverly constructed cages. In today's world, spirituality has become a brand, sleek, marketable, and often hollow. What once was a sacred inner path has been repackaged into motivational quotes, crystal starter kits, and pastel-colored affirmations. Just think positive, and they say, raise your vibration. But the Hermetic path was never about comfort. It was about truth, raw, challenging, transformative truth. And truth, unlike trends, doesn't cater to your ego. It shatters illusions. It demands your shadow. And it doesn't care how many followers you have or how aligned your chakras appear on social media. This distortion isn't accidental. It's convenient. A seeker lost in the aesthetics of spirituality is harmless. They buy sage but avoid their inner fire. They meditate but never confront the unconscious. The modern movement replaced ancient discipline with temporary dopamine. It promises instant manifestation, but skips the parts about self-responsibility, symbolic death, and rebirth. Hermetic wisdom speaks of transmutation, not manifestation. It's not about attracting what you want. It's about becoming what you are. That difference is everything. Many are seduced by the illusion of awakening, but awakening isn't a feeling, it's a breakdown. It's losing everything false to find what's real. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the process of integrating the shadow and realizing the self. But that doesn't come through vision boards or good vibes only. It comes through wrestling with the chaos inside, through recognizing your own projections, through silence, solitude, and symbolic sacrifice. The mystical path isn't pretty, it's sacred. It burns away what you're not, until only what is essential remains. Look closely and you'll see the pattern. Real inner work has been replaced with spiritual entertainment, psychedelics without integration, rituals without reverence, healing without humility. And behind all of this, a system that still benefits from your confusion. Because a seeker entertained is a seeker who doesn't question, they remain disconnected, not just from truth, but from the universe speaking within them. And so they loop, always seeking, never transforming, always consuming, never becoming. But there comes a moment, often in crisis, loss, or inner void, where the soul says, enough. Enough of the glitter, enough of the surface. It craves something deeper, something real. And in that longing, the ancient voice of Hermetic truth returns, not to please but to initiate, not to flatter, but to awaken. Because the next truth is fierce and freeing. You are not a victim of life. You are its architect, and the universe is waiting for you to remember. There comes a moment in every seeker's journey when the veil lifts, just a little, and they realize that life is not happening to them. It's happening through them. This is the threshold of true power, but also of terrifying responsibility. The Hermetic principle of mentalism isn't just poetic, it's the engine of the universe. Everything you experience, every joy and every wound, began first in mind. In the vast architecture of spirituality, your consciousness isn't a passenger, it's the architect, the builder, and the dwelling itself. The modern world teaches you to blame, to point outward, parents, governments, partners, fate. And yet, the Hermetic path calls for something far more radical: self-responsibility, not guilt, not shame, but the courage to say, I created this. Your beliefs, emotions, unconscious patterns, all of it weaves the tapestry of your reality. Jung knew this deeply. He called it projection, the tendency to see in the world what we refuse to confront in ourselves. When you understand this, you don't just reclaim power, you begin to decode the mystical mirror that reality truly is. Think of your mind like a tuning fork. The frequency you emit determines the experience you attract. If your internal world is filled with scarcity, fear, or unworthiness, life will reflect that, not as punishment, but as invitation, an invitation to evolve. The moment you shift your internal narrative, everything begins to reconfigure. It's not instant, it's not magical thinking, it's spiritual engineering. The universe isn't judging you, it's responding to you, always, relentlessly, lovingly, even when it hurts. This doesn't mean you're to blame for trauma or suffering. It means you're not powerless to transmute it. The Hermetic path teaches that we are alchemists of experience. We don't ignore pain. We engage it, study it, and ask what part of us it came to awaken. Your shadows aren't enemies. They are initiators, teachers. When integrated, they become fuel. And as you begin to witness your own patterns with compassion and clarity, reality begins to feel less random and more like a living conversation between your soul and the universe. So the question shifts from, why is this happening to me, to what is this showing me about myself? That single shift is the difference between stagnation and awakening, between being a passive character and becoming the author of your own myth. And once you accept this role, you begin to walk differently, speak differently, create differently. The illusion of powerlessness fades, and as that illusion crumbles, you begin to notice something deeply unsettling, yet profoundly liberating, that those in power have known this all along and kept it hidden. It may sound like fiction, but it's not. Those who shape the world behind the curtains don't ignore the Hermetic laws, they master them. While the masses are fed entertainment, division, and fast spirituality, certain circles, and secretive, ancient, and methodical, have studied these principles in silence for centuries. We're talking about occult orders, esoteric societies, elite networks that understand something most don't. The universe is programmable, and the mind is the interface. If you know the laws, you don't have to react to reality, you design it. Groups like the Freemasons, Rosicrucians, and other hidden collectives never abandoned Hermetic teachings. They refined them, embedded them in architecture, politics, commerce, even mass psychology. While you're taught to manifest a parking spot, they use the same laws to shape financial markets, influence social movements, and orchestrate mass behavior. Sound dramatic? Then ask yourself, why do the most powerful institutions always operate in secrecy? Why is mystical knowledge mocked publicly, but practiced privately? Symbols are their language, not just as decoration, but as programming. Sigils, geometry, rituals, all of these are Hermetic tools, not superstition, but science of the soul. While you scroll, they meditate. While you're distracted by dopamine and drama, they align with cycles, leverage polarity, and understand cause and effect in ways that allow them to remain several steps ahead. This isn't to breed fear, it's to inspire awareness, because once you see the pattern, you can no longer unsee it. The game changes. The illusion thins. The real danger isn't that they have access to this wisdom. The danger is that you don't, that you were told it was evil, unimportant, or irrelevant, that you were trained to look outward for salvation while they looked inward for power. But the same universe that responds to them responds to you. The laws don't discriminate. The difference is focus, discipline, and belief. They act with intention. You were taught to hope, and that gap between conscious creation and passive existence is exactly where control thrives. But the tide is shifting. More people are waking up. not to new beliefs but to forgotten truths. They're beginning to see the symbols in plain sight, in logos, media, architecture. They're beginning to remember that spirituality isn't a side hobby, it's the core technology of being. And with that remembering comes a quiet power, a fire in the soul, a question that echoes from the ancient temples to the chaos of modern life. If they've mastered these laws to enslave, what would happen if you mastered them to set yourself free? There's a romantic idea floating around the world of spirituality that awakening is serene, effortless, even beautiful. But ask anyone who's truly walked the inner path, and they'll tell you the truth. Real self-knowledge is war, not against others, but against your own illusions, against comfort, against the parts of you that cling to old stories. The Hermetic journey isn't about manifesting desires, it's about transcending them. It's not about escaping suffering, it's about transmuting it. And that process demands everything. Your will, your presence, your discipline. Most people want change without cost, but transformation has a price, your former self. To truly practice Hermeticism is to sit with your darkness, to witness your emotional triggers without running, to take full responsibility when it's easier to blame. It's recognizing your projections, confronting your ego's tricks, and walking willingly into your own shadows. Jung called this process shadow integration, a confrontation with the unconscious forces that silently shape your reality. Without this confrontation, all mystical talk of light becomes a lie. Because you cannot embody light if you fear your own dark. You begin to see that life itself is your teacher. Every delay, every loss, every challenge is part of the alchemical fire. Hermetic practice isn't theoretical, it's lived in the everyday. How you speak to others, how you regulate emotion, how you respond when no one is watching. It's in choosing stillness over reaction, alignment over impulse, intention over distraction. This isn't about rituals, it's about responsibility, about becoming so conscious that every thought becomes a choice, every emotion a signal, every situation a mirror from the universe. And this journey isn't linear. You'll fall, you'll forget, you'll resist. But each time you return, with more humility, more clarity, you forge something stronger within. The Hermetic initiate doesn't seek perfection, they seek truth. And truth is revealed through action. Meditation isn't enough. Insight isn't enough. You have to apply, to test, to embody. Wisdom unused becomes a weight, but wisdom lived becomes freedom. And it's this embodiment that separates the dreamers from the initiates, the seekers from the sovereign. Because at the heart of it all, one truth burns brighter than the rest. Knowledge without action is spiritual entertainment, and you weren't born for that. You were born to remember, to rise, to become a living embodiment of universal law. And as you step into that role, you'll face the ultimate threshold, the final, most confronting secret of all. You are either the cause of your life or its captive, and no one else can walk that line for you. See, at the final gate of transformation, there are no more distractions, no more stories to cling to, no more illusions to blame. There is only you, naked before the universe, staring into the mirror of your own existence. This is the last and most difficult truth. If you do not take full responsibility for your life, you will remain a prisoner of it. Not because life is cruel, but because reality responds not to desire, but to alignment. The Hermetic path leads here, to the threshold where freedom demands a sacrifice, your excuses. This is the moment where many turn back. They realize that true liberation isn't about feeling good, it's about becoming true. And truth is heavy. It requires effort. It demands discipline. You can't outsource your evolution. No teacher, ritual, or oracle can walk your path. You must sit with your pain. You must rewrite the narratives you've inherited. You must choose every single day to rise from your own ashes. That is the work. That is the spirituality no one sells because it can't be sold. It can only be lived. People wait for miracles, not realizing that the miracle is their own willingness to act, to think with intention, to feel with presence, to speak with awareness, to break cycles of self-sabotage, not through force but through clarity. The mystical power lies not in spells or secrets, but in your ability to bring consciousness to every corner of your being. That's what it means to be sovereign. to stop blaming the world and start sculpting it from the inside out. And yes, it's lonely sometimes, yes, it's hard, but it's real, and that's what makes it holy. The universe doesn't punish or reward, it reflects. It becomes what you are. If you vibrate in fear, it becomes a battlefield. If you vibrate in truth, it becomes a temple. The choice is yours, always has been, and the most dangerous lie you were ever told is that you're not powerful enough to change your life. But now you know better. Now you've touched the code beneath the illusion. The question is, will you live it? Because there is no savior coming. No system will free you. No guru can embody your truth. Only you. You are the key, the door, and the lock. You are the creator and the created. And every second you delay, you reinforce the cage. But every conscious breath, every intentional action, every inner victory is a crack in the prison wall. And when that wall finally crumbles, what waits on the other side is not just freedom, but purpose, power, and a reconnection so deep with the universe that the illusion of separation dissolves forever. Now that the veil has been lifted, what are you going to do with this truth? Have you ever felt that your life was part of something far greater, something invisible yet undeniable? If what you've discovered here sparked something inside you, don't let it fade. Share your thoughts in the comments. What part of this ancient knowledge resonated the most with your soul? And more, importantly, are you ready to reclaim the power that was hidden from you? If this message spoke to the deepest part of you, don't leave without subscribing to Celestial Truths and activating the bell icon. This is just the beginning. New revelations are coming, and you won't want to miss any of them. And now, to prepare yourself for the next step in your awakening, click on the video that's appearing right here on your screen. The universe doesn't speak through chance. It brought you here for a reason. See you in the next truth. I'm glad you're here. This is Celestial Truths.